Good day, everybody. This is Yin Yang in California with Millennial Samurai Saturday, Morsels of a Thought, number 1730. We hopefully get wisdom from other people, and I read from books such as Millennial Samurai, Book 1, A Mindset for the 21st Century by George J. Chanos, and I am reading to get wisdom. Knowing the right thing to do is wisdom. Actually doing it becomes virtue. So we're on chapter 46, Delusion and Entitlement. Delusional beliefs and a sense of entitlement are two incredibly destructive forces. Either one can prevent you from ever becoming successful or realizing your dreams. Many people have a delusional sense of entitlement. Rather than accepting personal responsibility, they think that someone else is responsible for them, or they think that rules don't apply to them. We see this sense of entitlement everywhere. People who cut in line, people who take more than their fair share, people who run red lights, those who expect or demand accommodation or assistance, and those who fail to show gratitude for the help they do receive. All these people suffer from a delusional sense of entitlement. We are seeing more and more examples today of youth walking into stores and restaurants and simply stealing merchandise or ordering and consuming food and not paying. I saw that happen. We see the same sense of entitlement and delusion in those who operate under false assumption that intelligence somehow guarantees success. Intelligence alone does not guarantee success. Intelligence plus hard work plus core values generally equals success. But even then, there is no guarantee. We see a similar sense of entitlement in those who believe that they deserve the respect of others, including but not limited to their parents, teachers, employers, and even the police. Some expect and demand respect even though they offer little respect in return. Respect is not something re, respect is not something that can be demanded. It must be earned. Respect is not something that can be demanded. It must be earned. The idea that we are somehow entitled to the respect of others, regardless of our own actions, is a false assumption. We are not. 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 Okay, I'm going to read that part again just because I lost track of it myself. Okay. I am turning page. The idea that we are somehow entitled to the respect of others regardless of our own actions is a false assumption. We are not entitled. Civility is something people often exchange freely in a civilized society. Respect, on the other hand, is something you must earn. We earn the respect of others through our own positive actions. These irrational, and destructive mindsets are not reserved to millennials. They are exhibited by and adversely affect people of all ages. If you suffer from delusional beliefs or a sense of entitlement, and if you don't resolve to get past these maladies, you will, without question, increase your likelihood of failure. Full face there. Accept personal responsibility for your actions and understand very clearly that no one owes you anything. For those interested in engaging with me, this is George J. Chanos, and learning more, here's an opportunity. Watch one or more of the following videos and comment on them at millennialsamurai.com/entitlement. From those commenting, I will select up to 5 people to participate in Facebook Live broadcasts that will also be featured on YouTube.com and MillennialSamurai.com, in which we will together explore this topic. Please provide your email when commenting so that we can reach you. And these are videos. There are 10 videos. Go to millennialsamurai.com/entitlement. All of these have these codes on them. To participate, answer the following questions for any or all of the above videos. The above videos and the below questions can also be found at millennialsamurai.com/entitlement. First, identify the video you watched, then answer the following questions. Who was in the right and who was in the wrong in the video you selected and why? That's number 1. Why do you think that the person who was in the wrong behaved the way they did? That was number 2. Number 3 is, what do you think are the major causes of an entitled mindset? What, if anything, do you think people can do to rid themselves of an entitled mindset? That was 4. Number 5 is, what would you do as a parent to deal with a child who exhibited an entitled mindset? Okay, now, the Dunning-Kruger effect. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. This is by Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd President of the United States. In America today, we're both free and far too often incredibly ignorant. That can't last. David Dunning and Justin Kruger, 2 Cornell psychologists, coined the term the Dunning-Kruger effect. It is a cognitive bias that causes some people who are incompetent at something to be unable to recognize their own incompetence. Some incompetent people not only fail to recognize their incompetence, they overestimate their competence. We are reading Millennial Samurai, Book 1, A Mindset for the 21st Century by George J. Chanos. And today we are on 1730, our consecutive days of my bringing you morsels of a thought, of wisdom, hopefully that we know the right things to do. I focus a lot on women on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I do focus on women on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we also need to do those right things. When we do those right things, we are creating virtue. Okay. Now, Professor Dunning states for the Dunning-Kruger effect, the knowledge and intelligence that are required to be good at a task are often the same qualities needed to recognize that one is not good at that task, and if one lacks such knowledge and intelligence, one remains ignorant that one is not good at that task. One study, in other words, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they have things they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. One study of high-tech firms discovered that 32 to 42% of software engineers rated their skills as being in the top 5% of their companies. A nationwide survey found that 21% of Americans believe that it's, quote, very likely, end quote, or, quote, fairly likely, end quote, that they'll become millionaires within the next 10 years. In a classic study of faculty at the University of Nebraska, 68% rated themselves in the top 25% for teaching ability, and more than 90% rated themselves above average. These self-ratings are mathematically impossible. Ooh, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Those with a little knowledge think they know it all. With increasing experience, people begin to realize how little they do know and how modest their skills really are. Those at the level of genius recognize their talent, although they tend to lack the supreme confidence of the ignoramus. Dunning has said, the quote, the presence of the Dunning-Kruger effect, as it's come to be called, is that one should pause to worry about one's own certainty, not the certainty of others. There is a high statistical probability that you overestimate your knowledge and ability. The lower your intellect and ability, the more likely this is, and the less likely you are to recognize it. Interesting, huh? In other words, you can know just enough to be dangerous. Let's say you know some parts of the control board on a helicopter. You know what goes on, you know what goes off, you know what's supposed to happen, but you don't know enough how to do it. But you are dangerous because you start doing something and it affects other people possibly, and you could kill them with your lack of knowledge. You could crash the helicopter, I see as a good example. That's my example. Okay, so now we are reading Sharpening Your Sword, the double-edged sword that we have for our minds. Lifelong learning. Learning is an investment in yourself. Think of your brain as your sword and think of learning as sharpening that sword. You will carry that sword throughout your life wherever you go. The sharper your sword is, the more prepared and formidable you will be, regardless of the situation you may encounter. Increase your intelligence through using your five senses. Learn by watching, reading, listening, touching, tasting, and smelling. Learn through experience, practice, and repetition. Awaken your senses through mindfulness, meditation, concentration, and reflection. Learning is a lifelong process. Even single subjects like law, medicine, art, and wine take a lifetime to learn. The more we learn, the more we realize how little we know. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates said, quote, the man who thinks he knows everything knows nothing at all, end quote. A millennial samurai never stops learning. They never stop sharpening their sword. The opportunity to learn is a gift. Treasure that opportunity. Develop a love of learning. Learn everything you can. Devour information and experience life's wonders gratefully and mindfully. Never stop sharpening your sword. Okay, next part is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity, we read this in 1611 and 1604. But anyway, neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to form new connections and pathways and change how its circuits are wired. Neuroplasticity is a term used to describe the brain's ability to recognize itself by forming new neural connections throughout your life. For many decades, it was thought that the brain was a non-renewable organ, that we are born with a fixed amount of brain cells and they slowly die as we age, regardless of what we do. This theory is now widely discredited. Now, do you know this? Yin Yang speaks. This is incredible. We used to think we were born with like 20,000 brain cells and that by the time we were seniors, we'd have only 13,000 brain cells or 10,000 brain cells. But now we've got a whole different theory. The theory that I just stated is now widely discredited. So forget all that. Now you know. We now know, says George J. Chanos, we now know that the human brain has the ability to form new connections and pathways and change how its circuits are wired. Different brain pathways form and fall dormant, are created and discarded according to our experiences. Do you remember that other book? right? Yesterday, Fridays, we talk about brain rescue, and this book mentions this phenomenon. Okay. When we learn something new, says George J. Chanos, we create new connections between our neurons. We rewire our brains to adapt to new circumstances. This happens on a daily basis, and we can encourage and stimulate this process. The relation between neuroplasticity and learning is easy to understand. We are reading George J. Chanos' Millennial Samurai, Book 1, A Mindset for the 21st Century. When we learn, we form new pathways in the brain. Each new lesson has the potential to connect new neurons and change our brain's wiring and operation. In a famous example, research showed that part of the brain involved in navigation is larger in London cab drivers who spend their adult lives finding their way around the city. Other significant examples would be learning a new language or a musical instrument, both of which profoundly rewire the connections in our brains. A person with a growth mindset believes that he or she can get smarter, better, or more skilled at something through sustained effort, which is exactly what neuroplasticity tells us. Have you ever driven to your house on autopilot without thinking about where you're going? That's neuroplasticity in its simplest form. Over time, your brain has learned how to get home without continuous conscious thought, just as it has learned how to breathe without continuous conscious thought. Neuroplasticity can also help you manage and treat anxiety and depression. It is well established that chronic stress can result in anxiety and depression. Studies have also found that chronic stress inhibits neuroplasticity and adversely impacts certain regions of the brain. One of the formal one of the formal diagnostic criteria for depression, according to the American Psychiatric Association, APA, is a quote, diminished ability to think or concentrate, end quote. Yoga, meditation, and exercise, for example, have been known to reduce stress. By reducing stress, these activities can actually restore function to areas of the brain that have been impaired by stress. Focused attention and challenge are both critical to promoting neuroplasticity. Travel and exposure to unique experiences and environments, learning a new language or musical instrument, reading, expanding your vocabulary, creating art, dancing, sleeping, intermittent fasting, mindfulness, and meditation can all promote neuron growth, form new neural connections, and improve overall cognitive function. Essentially, focused attention on new and novel experiences and developing new skills all promote neuroplasticity and sharpen your millennial samurai sword. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Now we have a new theory, and it works best for us to do things like come to me on Fridays when I read this other book, Brain Rescue, a 90-day blueprint to reclaim your memory after a brain injury or concussion by Dr. Brody Miller, PhD. They know each other, these authors. Uh, George J. Chanos wrote A Mindset for the 21st Century. This is Millennial Samurai Book 1 on morsels of a thought of wisdom, hopefully that we gain knowledge of what to do, the right thing to do, and when we do it, we create virtue. Now, this is 1730 days in a row. I have come to you with morsels of a thought of wisdom. Now, George J. Chanos is the author on Saturdays. We read Millennial Samurai Saturdays. Now we're on chapter 50. Mindfulness. Hold on a second. I gotta do this. Okay. Jill Bolt, with an E at the end, Taylor, American neuroanatomist, author, and speaker, says, quote, "We are capable of mindfulness. We are capable of changing our thoughts and changing our brains," end quote. Mindfulness is a state of active, open attention to the present moment. When you're mindful, you observe your thoughts and feelings more consciously. Instead of letting your life pass you by, mindfulness means living in the moment and awakening to all types of experiences. Mindfulness is the essence of engagement. When we are living in the present, in the moment, we are less likely to plague ourselves with fears about the future or regrets about the past. By paying attention to what's happening around us instead of operating on autopilot, we can reduce stress, unlock creativity, and improve our performance. We also become more alert to opportunities. Henry Miller, American writer, said, quote, "In the moment one gives close attention to anything, even a blade of grass, it becomes a mysterious, awesome, indescribably magnificent world in itself." End quote. Mindfulness comes from Buddhism and is key to meditation in that tradition. Be mindful of your daily life, the places, the reactions of your senses, and the beauty that surrounds you. Take time to smell the flowers and the grass. Look up at the sky and marvel at the passing clouds. Lie in the sun and feel the warmth of its rays. Feel the wind, the snow, and the rain. When you eat something, smell it, touch it, and savor it. Look into the eyes of the people you meet. Shake their hands. Listen to what they say. Connect with them. Make an effort to remember their names. Be present in the moment. We all rely very heavily on our unconscious thoughts. We have to, as our unconscious thoughts are required to process the 11 million bits of information that impact all of our brains every second. We rely on our unconscious minds to handle our sensory perception, our memory recall, and most of our routine, daily, everyday decisions. Some scientists estimate that we are conscious of less than 5% of our cognitive function. The other 95% happens outside of our conscious awareness. That being said, we not only have the ability to control our conscious thoughts, through mindfulness, we have the ability to influence many of our unconscious thoughts and impulses as well. Those who perform at the highest levels are the most focused and the most mindful. Wow. When we start to focus on positive thoughts, we let go of our fears and anxieties. Pain is often a given, but suffering is optional. In sum, there is scientific evidence that we have the ability to control our thoughts. We do this by experiencing life more fully, more consciously, and more mindfully as it unfolds. We will go more into depth of this mindfulness topic chapter later. I will talk to you again tomorrow, and the 8th President of the United States, Martin Van Buren, always wanted things to end on a virtuous note, so we're going to say Old Kinderhook because that was his birthplace. He was from Kinderhook, New York. Okay, Old Kinderhook. That's what it comes from. West End. Yay.